Dragi prieteni, este o plăcere să fiu alături de voi în București. I can do better. I know now I do it again. No, I'm kidding. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here on the podium, on the stage with Victor Negrescu, our Vice President from the European Socialist Party. It is an honor to organize this event in Bucharest with PSD after just few weeks where we all met in Rome at the Congress of PES, which was the moment when our electoral campaign for the European election started, with a very important decision, the unanimous election of our lead candidate, Mr. Nicola Schmidt. And as we are in Bucharest, I underline the fact that it was a unanimous decision, the one of electing Nicola Schmidt as our lead candidate. Because apparently, but Victor may correct me if I'm wrong, somebody else organized another congress in Bucharest just a few days afterwards, another political family. And they also had a candidate to be elected as the lead candidate of their political family. And she was also the only candidate. But apparently, only the half of the voters decided to support her for this bid. I don't want to talk badly about the others. We are in a democratic competition, and we are in fact welcoming that also the EPP has their lead candidate in the person of Ursula von der Leyen. And we wish her all the best for her campaign. But let's say, our campaign started in a completely different way, and this is thanks to all of you, all the member parties that are present here, and that I want to acknowledge for their presence. Thank you for your contribution and participation. I'm not going to take much more. There will be panels, discussions, speeches of extremely important leaders of our family, starting with our President Stefan Levin, the Prime Minister of Romania, Marcel Ciolacu, the SPD Chancellor of Germany, Mr. Olaf Scholz, and then obviously Nicola Schmidt, our lead candidate. Other leaders will speak and will outline our view and our vision for the next cycle of the European Union. But I would like to also acknowledge the presence of another leader of our family here today that doesn't come from the European Union. Still, what happened a few days ago in his country was a real moment of hope for all the progressive within Europe and outside of it. I'm referring to the leader of CHP, our Turkish party, Özgür. Their victory at the local level in big cities like Ankara and Istanbul has been extremely important. I would also like to welcome the presence of our friend Albin Kurti, the party leader of Vete Mendoza from Kosovo. And I would really like to extend to all of you our heartfelt congratulations, especially to the PSD leadership and to Victor Negrescu for having organized this amazing gathering. Enjoy. This is an important day. Today is the day where the campaign starts also in Romania, and we are here to win those elections.
It is indeed an important day. And of course, because it's an important day and it takes place here in Bucharest, I will have to speak briefly in Romanian as well, if you allow me. Peste 1000 de persoane au venit astăzi la evenimentul nostru. Reuniunea liderilor PES, iată, avem prieteni din toată Europa care sunt astăzi alături de noi pentru a ne susține și a sublinia încă o dată că suntem una dintre principalele familii politice europene. Și în sensul acesta, așa cum s-a spus și mai devreme, a spus Giacomo, l-avem pe candidatul comun, avem pe cancelarul german, liderul SPD, avem în sensul acesta colegi din toată Europa, dar și din țările vecine. Este un lucru îmbucurător pentru noi și o ocazie importantă pentru a sublinia foarte clar că Partidul Social-Democrat este un partid puternic, recunoscut, influent în familia sa politică și că mai ales în interiorul acestei familii reușim să facem multe lucruri la nivel european pentru dumneavoastră, pentru cetățeni, pentru România, pentru Europa. So I'm confident that we are going to have today a very interesting event with a lot of speakers and a lot of interesting messages that define us as a political family. We are all in it together, and the purpose is to win the European elections. And we are quite confident that we can make it. What I can tell you, and this is what the Prime Minister said earlier in the previous discussions, that the PSD will win the elections. And this is important. So for that to happen, we have to speak to people, we have to speak with citizens that are outside this room. Earlier today, our common candidate, Nicola Schmid, together with our labor minister, they were both together visiting people that are actually working today. So you have people that are working today on a Saturday. And we have to discuss with them, listen to them, see what are their needs. And I think the strength of our political family has always been to speak about social issues, economic issues, labor issues. These are at the core of our political family. These are at the core of the PS, at the core of PSD. So I'm confident that together today we are going to underline all of that, underline once more which type of Europe we want, a social Europe, a democratic Europe, a sustainable Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victor. There is another person that I need to acknowledge and thank her specifically for her presence, because also the trip here was not that easy for her, and it is our leader in the European Parliament, Irache Garcia from PSOE, the group leader of the S&D. And from one president of our European group to the other president of our political party, it is a great pleasure to invite Mr. Stefan Levin to address this plenary. Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that. I can say it is an honor and a true pleasure to be here with all of you in Bucharest today. I thank you everybody for joining this PES Leader Conference, and by that showing your support for our movement. It is absolutely crucial during an election campaign. I would like to thank Marcel, I would like to thank Victor and all our friends of PSD Romania for organizing this very, very important event. It's a milestone of our European election campaign. Let me also congratulate you on taking the first step, joining the Schengen zone this month. Of course, Romania's accession is long, long overdue, and let me say this very clearly, as Social Democrats, we condemn the pointless stalling, the pointless veto of Austria's conservative government. There is no reason to deny Romanians the same freedom of movement as other European citizens. Congratulations, really. Dear friends, you don't need me to tell you that we are living through challenging times. Economic, ecological, and technological transformations loom large on the horizon. We have geopolitical turmoil threatening our security, and far-right parties are ready to take advantage of citizens' anxieties, and they are ready to undermine our democracy. But we know that the far-right have never been, will never be, is not the answer. We know that they want to take us back in time, when what we need is for Europe to move forward, to embrace the challenges and steer the transformation for a better future. And as Social Democrats, this is exactly our mission. Our movement has always been a force for progress and equality. And we are not afraid of change. We understand that change also holds opportunities. And we have a vision we have a concrete plan. So at our electoral congress in Rome, as was mentioned by our Secretary General, we defined together the political priorities of our social democratic family. And I am, as a president, I'm very, very proud that we stood united behind our election manifesto and our common vision for our continent. So the Europe we want is, as always also was mentioned here earlier, the Europe we want is a social Europe, it's a democratic Europe, it is a sustainable Europe. It's a Europe that is a guarantee for equality, a safe haven, a protective shield for workers, and a force of peace and progress in the world. So please allow me to say a few words to you today about some of these priorities, and I will tell you about the Europe I want. That is a social Europe that stands up for workers' rights and equality. A Europe that protects its environment and its people. A Europe that is a force for peace and security in the world. And dear friends, our political family has been fighting for a social Europe since the creation of the single market. We want the EU to be a shield for citizens and for workers, a baseline guarantee that their social rights will be protected. Now, for a long time, European economic integration has been influenced by a reckless, misguided neoliberal dogma and austerity measures which hurt the poorest members of our society. But with Nicola Schmidt as Commissioner for Social Rights, we have been able to turn the tide. During the last mandate alone, we pushed forward landmark files like the Minimum Wage and Collective Bargaining Directive, the SURE instrument, and the Platform Work Directive, 3 examples. And thanks to the very good cooperation with social democratic prime ministers, as Marcel, but also member partners like PSD Romania, we were able to prove that our political family is the force for social progress in Europe. And during next mandate, we will go even further. We are fighting for fair labor mobility across the EU, starting with a strong European Labour Authority. We want good working conditions, including in the digital economy. And this means improving health and safety, standards to reach 0 deaths at work, pushing for the right to disconnect, and combating exploitation everywhere. We will guarantee that workers have an effective right to training to ensure that they can benefit from the green and digital transition. So the Europe that we want is a Europe that raises living standards, provides opportunities for everyone, and eradicates poverty. And to break the vicious cycle of generational poverty and disadvantage, we have to start with our youngest, our children. Just under 20 million children in the European Union are at risk of poverty and social exclusion. This is almost 1 in 4 children. And this is in one of the most prosperous regions in the world. We cannot tolerate that. Children need strong social service to have a good start in life. And this is why our political family spearheaded the introduction of the European Child Guarantee. We will ensure that all children in Europe have access to these basic rights, like education, healthcare, housing. And we want to put 20 billion euros of EU funds towards this objective and lift at least 5 million children out of poverty before the end of this decade. That's a social democratic task, and we will take that. And this is indeed a moral thing, but it's more than a moral imperative. It's also an economic one, because every euro that we spend on our children is an investment in the future and the society as a whole. The fight for a social Europe is also a fight for a more equal Europe. We are a feminist party, and the struggle for women's equality is in our history. It's in our DNA. It was the feminists in our movement, working women and socialists, who successfully led the first big fight for women's emancipation, namely the fight for the right to vote. And today we are proudly continuing their legacy towards a future where every woman and every girl in the European Union is safe from violence and discrimination, has the right to fully control her own life and her own body, and is able to develop her full potential. This is a priority for us because we are listening to the words of Malala Yousafzai saying, "We cannot all succeed if half of us are held back." We will never accept that. Dear friends, if we want a Europe to be a good home for us and for our children, then we need to ensure a fair transition, a fair green transition. Climate change is no longer a distant threat, a risk. It's happening right now. But right-wing politicians are cynically putting the future of our planet on the line when they demand that we put the green transition on hold. They put environmental protection on the ballot on this election. But we will not give up, and we will not scale down our ambitions. We believe that climate justice and social justice need to go hand in hand. That is what a fair transition is for us. We will reach our climate targets without leaving anyone behind. We will create quality, sustainable jobs of the future. We will protect farmers and their livelihoods. Our planet is our shared home. It is our collective responsibility, and we can only save it together. So let's do that. Finally, let me say a few words about the value of peace, stability, and security. Our European Union was born from the ashes of the most devastating war in human history. The EU is, above all, a peace project, and it has brought security and stability for hundreds of millions. And this is the basis of our prosperity and our progress. Using the words of Willy Brandt, peace is not everything, but everything is nothing without peace. For this reason, we need to stand up against warmongers, dictators, against those who threaten our peace. And this is why we need to continue to support Ukraine against Russia's unjustified aggression. Dear friends, despite all these challenges, I am really hopeful about the future. And I know that you are here. We are here together because we share the same values, the same vision, the same goals, and we are ready to fight for them. I am ready to fight. Our common candidate, Niklas Schmidt, is really ready to fight for our vision of a better Europe. And with your support, with your enthusiasm, we can make our vision into reality. The first step, friends, is to go out and win this election. I know I can count on you, and the European people can count on the Party of European Socialists. Thank you for listening.
So, thank you, Stefan. Thank you for opening our discussion by giving us, I think, a clear direction and laying down some of the priorities that I think we all share now ahead of the European elections. So thanks a lot to our president. So my name is Thomas Vorpel. I'm Deputy Secretary General of the Party of European Socialists, and together with Victor, I will guide us a bit through this conference further on, which will be a pleasure. And now let's move to the next part. Stefan spoke a lot about social justice, about fair economy, about strong labor rights, and I think this corresponds quite well to some of the priorities that also you're following with your policies here, the priorities of your party, and from my reading also the priorities of the current Romanian government led by a great social democrat. So Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu, please come on stage. The floor is yours. Thank you for having us here today.
Dragă Ștefan, dragă Olaf, Irace, Nicolas, dragi colegi, doamnelor și domnilor, bine ați venit în România! Vă mulțumesc tuturor pentru sprijinul necondiționat oferit de socialii democrați europeni pentru aderarea României la spațiul Schengen. Vă mulțumesc pentru sprijinul acordat fermierilor și cetățenilor afectați de multiplele crize suprapuse care afectează întreaga Europă. Familia noastră politică a fost mereu și rămâne principalul aliat al României la nivel european. De aceea vă spun astăzi, cu tărie și încredere, că social-democrații europeni pot câștiga alegerile pentru Parlamentul European. Și că din România vom trimite mai mulți eurodeputați PSD decât în urmă cu 5 ani. Sunt ferm convins că noi suntem curentul politic de care are nevoie acum Uniunea Europeană. Așa cum știți, pentru stabilitatea și dezvoltarea României am luat decizia de a face echipă printr-o listă comună cu aliații noștri de la guvernare. Însă Partidul Social-Democrat continuă să facă echipă cu social-democrații europeni pentru o Uniune Europeană care să redevină motorul dezvoltării și bunăstării pentru cetățenii săi. După 20 de ani de conducere de dreapta, Europa are nevoie de mai multe politici sociale, are nevoie de umanizare, are nevoie de energia și de ideile pe care social-democrația europeană le susține. Când spunem că nimeni nu mai trebuie lăsat în urmă, trebuie să facem acest lucru. Și o spun cu modestie, noi am fost cei care am făcut mereu acest lucru. Fie că vorbim de Mette în Danemarca, de Olaf în Germania, de Ștefan în Suedia, de Pedro în Spania, de Antonio în Portugalia sau de Partidul Social-Democrat în România, noi am fost cei care am crescut salariul minim, am mărit pensiile, am creat locuri de muncă, i-am sprijinit pe tineri și am dezvoltat țările noastre. Extremiștii nu au făcut nimic. Ei caută doar să dezbine Europa și să ne arunce în brațele lui Vladimir Putin. Extremiștii vor să nu mai avem bani europeni, vor să nu mai circulăm liberi în Europa, vor să ne închidă frontierele și să ne urâm unii cu ceilalți. Doamnelor și domnilor, realitatea este simplă. În timp ce anti-europeni se filmeau pe rețelele sociale, comisarii noștri contribuiau la soluții pe care le-am găsit la multiplele crize pe care le-am traversat. Am gestionat pandemia, am venit cu măsuri pentru a proteja fermierii, am compensat prețul la energie, am protejat locurile de muncă, am implementat planurile de redresare și am folosit cum trebuie fondurile europene. Un exemplu în acest sens este Nicolas Schmit, comisarul pentru muncă și drepturi sociale. Omul care a dezvoltat programul SURE, prin care am salvat milioane de locuri de muncă. Doar în România am beneficiat de peste 3 miliarde de euro din acest program. Dragă Nicolas, ești un prieten adevărat al României și mai ales ești un social-democrat convins. Lupta dusă de tine pentru crearea unui mecanism european, pentru salariul minim european, este cheia creșterii veniturilor la nivelul Uniunii Europene, dar și pentru un tratament echitabil pentru salariații din Europa. Pentru muncă egală vom avea în sfârșit salarii adecvate peste tot în Europa. În România, încă de anul trecut, am început implementarea salariului minim european. Salariul minim a crescut într-un ritm accelerat, tocmai pentru a ne apropia cât mai rapid de nivelul de salarizare europeană. Dragi colegi, Nicolas intră într-o luptă dificilă, însă pe noi, socialdemocrații, nu ne sperie astfel de momente. Avem misiunea și datoria să luptăm pentru convingerile și valorile noastre. Și de aceea salut programul nostru politic, aprobat recent la Roma, pe care avem ocazia să-l prezentăm astăzi la București. Acest document arată clar Europa pe care ne-o dorim și lupta noastră pentru un trai mai bun pentru cetățenii pe care îi reprezentăm. Și sunt bucuros că în această Europa pentru care cu toții luptăm, vedem că din nou socialdemocrații europeni sunt primii și cei care ne susțin cel mai clar în privința aderării imediate și complete la spațiul Schengen. Sunt convins că după ce România a intrat săptămâna trecută în zona liberă de circulație pe calea aeriană și maritimă, cu sprijinul dumneavoastră vom realiza integrarea completă printr-o decizie până la sfârșitul anului. Doamnelor și domnilor, în data de 9 iunie, în România, vom avea atât alegerile pentru Parlamentul European, cât și alegerile locale. Prezența importantă la vot va legitima atât reprezentanții noștri în legislativul european, cât și importanța unei Europe aproape de cetățeni. Partidul Social-Democrat va câștiga aceste legi, va trimite în Parlamentul European un număr important de reprezentanți și dorim să pornim de aici, de la București, valul social-democrat în toată regiunea noastră. De aceea este important să ne susțineți pentru ca în viitoarea Comisie Europeană și în viitorul Parlament European să avem mai mulți lideri din zona noastră. Pentru că doar prin unitate și coeziune Europa poate să fie puternică și pentru acest lucru ne trebuie și reprezentativitate. Mult noroc, Nicolas, mult succes PES și partidelor noastre și, în ultimul rând, puțină lume știe din România contribuția comisarului Nicolas Schmit în îndepărtarea din PNRR a celebrului procent de 9,4% care ar fi dus la înghețarea pensiilor timp de 50 de ani din România. Acel 9,4% introdus de către o guvernare de dreapta. Omul care ne-a ajutat determinant pentru scoaterea celui de 9,4% din PNRR a fost Nicolas Schmit și vreau din nou să-i mulțumesc pentru acest lucru. Mulțumim, Nicolas!
Indeed, we have to stand together for Europe, stand together for Romania, and as the Prime Minister just mentioned, here in Romania, the government led by the Social Democratic Party is pushing forward social democratic policies, including the European minimum wage, for which we campaigned here in Romania. We started that campaign 4 years ago, and now we are happy that the government, that Prime Minister Ciolacu, announced recently that by the end of the year, we will have fully implemented here in Romania the regulations that will apply the European minimum wage for all Romanians. Thank you, Prime Minister. So if we speak about social policies, if we speak about Europe and us being together and building that Europe that we want, we need friends, we need partners. And of course, here in this family, we have friends, we have partners on whom we can count. And indeed, you have seen the first visit of our Prime Minister was in Berlin. So therefore, I have to mention and introduce today one of our closest friends, a leader at European level and of our political family, Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Have the floor.
Dear comrades and friends, dear Marcel, it is good to be here in Bucharest, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you. It is a good and strong sign of Romania's vibrant democracy that we, Socialists and Democrats, can gather here today at the Palace of the Parliament. Built during the era of Ceausescu, its history is linked to the lack of freedom and democracy during those difficult years. But the fact that we are standing here today bears testimony to the triumph of democracy over the terrible time of the dictatorship. Friends from the PSD, you were elected in difficult times, but these times are not stopping you from making decisions based on a sense of responsibility for your country. Higher pensions, lower taxes for people with small incomes, more support for families with children, and an increase in the minimum wage. The achievements of the PSD bear witness to strong social democratic policies in today's Romania. Thank you, Marcel, for this and for hosting us here today. Germany and Romania are linked by a close friendship. This becomes particularly obvious when facing the challenges of our times jointly. The largest country in Europe attacked the second largest country on our continent for purely imperialistic motives. We are standing right now. We are merely 200 kilometers away from the Ukrainian border. And let us be very clear, borders must not be changed through violence. This is the main pillar of the European peace order, a principle established by leading social democrats like Olof Palme or Willy Brandt. It is our legacy today to uphold it. Security is not everything, but without security, everything is nothing. I'm therefore deeply grateful for the key role Romania is playing for security in Europe 27 years after the founding of NATO. Your country's contribution as the main troop contributor in the multinational brigade in which we cooperate closely strengthens security on the southeastern flank of NATO. It strengthens security for Europe as a whole. In the last 17 years, Romania has also been a proud, important and respected member of the European Union. Therefore, the decision that we have now finally taken to welcome Romania into our common Schengen area was long overdue and highly deserved. My party, the SPD, always supported Romania's accession to the Schengen area. There are no first or second-class EU member states. We are one united Europe. A month ago, during our last party gathering in Rome, I stated that the war in Ukraine ends the moment that President Putin decides to withdraw his troops. However, he will only take that decision if he realizes that he cannot win the war on the battlefield, that he cannot dictate an unjust peace, that time doesn't play in his favor. Therefore, our support for Ukraine is key to restoring peace in Europe. We will uphold it for as long as it takes. Germany is Ukraine's second largest supporter after the United States. So far, we have allocated 28 billion euro in military support alone. And I'm grateful to partners like Romania for doing what they can to help. At the recent European Council, we have decided to ramp up our support in weapons and ammunition and to purchase these goods globally. We also will use the windfall profits from frozen Russian assets for Ukraine's defense. At the same time, one thing was clear to us from the very beginning: we do not want a war between Russia and NATO. The best way to prevent any escalation is effective deterrence. Therefore, we are investing more in our own security and defense jointly as Europeans, so that no one dares to attack us. This also means putting narrow self-interest aside and building a strong and truly European defense industry. This will be one of the major tasks for the EU after the upcoming elections. Strengthening Europe as a geopolitical actor also means making better use of one of the strongest instruments of our foreign policy, our enlargement policy. Enlargement always was and still is a driving force for democracy, peace and prosperity on our continent. Romania is one of the best examples for this. We have achieved new momentum in the accession process with the countries of the Western Balkan. With Ukraine and Moldova, we opened accession negotiations in December. Georgia has become a candidate country. Of course, these countries must fulfill the accession criteria. But the people in these countries share our common values, and they have every right to live in peace and freedom just like us. Therefore, it is good to have Romania on our side when it comes to resolutely pushing ahead with the accession process over the next few years. Of course, this will need to go hand in hand with internal reforms of the EU. A European Union with 32 or 35 members cannot work with the rules crafted for a much smaller union. I'm glad that we agreed on the need for such reforms and that we aim to adopt a roadmap for this important process by this summer. A growing European Union working closely together will also be able to respond better to the challenges of a world that will soon have 10 billion citizens. Economies in Asia, Latin America and Africa are rising. They demand more political influence and economic development and have every right to do so. Projections show that by the middle of this century, countries of the Global South could reach the levels of economic development that European and North American countries enjoyed in the 1950s. If they do so, using the same fossil energies and technologies we used, our world would no longer be a good place to live in. It is therefore in our best interest to establish true partnerships with countries of the Global South. We have what it takes, the technologies, the knowledge, and the political will to help them prosper and grow their economies, but in a more sustainable way than we did. Of course, we also need to advance the economic transformation in our own countries. One crucial aspect in this regard will be the banking and capital markets union. This may sound technical, but in the end, it is about whether we can mobilize enough private capital to finance the transformation of our economies. Public funding alone won't be enough. The move towards climate-neutral industries and societies is the biggest change since the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. And of course, a change like this also creates uncertainties among our citizens. Many are asking themselves, will all of this end well for me and my family? In times like these, it is crucial that we protect our European social market economy as a unique model in the world. We need a social Europe that is able to protect its citizens in times of crisis and when they are in need. That is what Nicolas Schmidt, our common Spitzenkandidat, stands for. He has proven that European policy can achieve more than just shaping a common domestic market. Thanks to him, we have a directive on fair minimum wages in Europe. Thanks to him, we have implemented an action plan on the European pillar of social rights. Thanks to him, we have a European child guarantee that gives every child in Europe access to basic social services. Thank you for this. These are our values, cast and policies. They aim for respect towards the people and their lives. Respect for the people who go to work every day. Respect for the people who rely on a functioning and secure welfare state in times of need. Respect for different lifestyles, beliefs, origins, and cultures that make up the diversity that characterizes our continent. Romania is leading the way in protecting minority rights in Europe. Since the founding of modern Romania more than 100 years ago, your country embraced its ethnic, cultural, religious, and linguistic diversity. One could even say that today's Romania is something like a small Europe itself. And I know for sure that the German minority in Romania has played an important role in building strong bridges between Bucharest and Berlin. This is a treasure we must defend. Right-wing populists are running election campaigns against our united Europe and its values. They are ready to destroy what we have built for decades. They stir up sentiment against refugees and minorities. They jeopardize our prosperity that is built on a joint European market. Just look at both our countries. Germany is Romania's most important trading partner since more than 17 years, and Romania has become one of the 17 most important sales markets for German goods. There are thousands of companies with German equity investing in Romania. And for many Romanians, Germany became an attractive country to work and live in. After Poland, the vast majority of immigrated workers from the EU came from Romania to Germany. The European elections are just around the corner. A European Union that stands for prosperity, a European Union capable of getting things done is the best response to populists and autocrats. A truly great European, Jacques Delors, once said, "No one will fall in love with a domestic market." Yes, that's true. But we can certainly fall in love a little more with the European Union. We can be proud to have the largest domestic market in the world, with leading research institutions, innovative companies, and a social welfare system that is globally unparalleled. We, as Socialists and Democrats, are committed to our European values of freedom, the rule of law, and democracy. And I've come to know Marcel as one of the strongest voices in our ranks, with a clear pro-democratic and pro-European agenda, contributing every day to our work of building a better and just Europe. Dear friends, We are the ones protecting what we achieved in Europe and building what we want to achieve next. A sovereign, a solidary and a united Europe that stands strong against autocrats and injustice, promoting peace and democracy in the world and for the people. That is what we fight for together, shoulder to shoulder. Thank you.
So, thank you, Chancellor, thank you, Olaf. And let's move ahead in the program. So we had our PAS president, we had two prime ministers laying down their ideas, laying down their priorities for the future of Europe. And I think this gives us a good basis to now discuss further, to discuss about the challenges Europe is faced with, and to discuss about our progressive answers to this in the various policy fields that are important not only in this European election campaign, but of course also in the next legislative period. So before doing that, let's start with a little video. And now I have the pleasure to invite our speakers to the stage, and let me start with the Executive Vice President of the Party of European Socialists and the Vice President of the European Parliament, Katharina Barley. Warm welcome. Next, the President of the Foundation for European Progressive Studies, FEPS, Maria Joao Rodriguez. Maria, please come on stage. And besides that, from Romania, I can now invite to the stage the Minister for European Investments and Projects, Adrian Căciu. And last but not least, someone who is now running a campaign here, the candidate mayor for Bucharest, Cătălin Cârstoiu. Also a warm welcome to you. So, Katharina, let us start maybe by speaking a bit about the state of play of democracy in Europe. So, from your point of view, what are the major challenges we're faced with in the field of democracy, and what can we do as social democrats, which is our responsibility here? What's your view on that?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much to Marcel and Victor and all the Romanian colleagues, first of all, for the warm welcome in this very, very impressive setting. And yes, and for this question. I think, first of all, we have to be aware of what the state of democracy really is. Yesterday, I was at a conference in Vienna, and a scientist said, well, yeah, at the moment, democracy is not in a good shape, but that always happens in history. It goes up and down, and it will become better again. Now, it's always difficult to argue with a scientist as a politician, but I really definitely disagree, because this ignores what has changed. Autocracies and dictatorships, a few decades ago, what were they like? They were nationalists, and they said, we are better. We are better than the others. We are the better people, we are superior, we are whichever. Unfortunately, me being German, I know what I'm talking about. But also the other nationalists, they kept comparing one people to the other and saying we are smarter, better, whatever, fighting against each other. And that is what has changed fundamentally. Now they ally. Now they get together. And they don't do this one against the other anymore. They say autocracy is better than democracy. And they now have a common enemy. It's not Marine Le Pen against our German AfD. It's not Vox against other autocratic parties. It's them against democracy. And that is the case worldwide. And we have to be aware of this to understand how much more difficult our fight has become and how much more important that we ally also as Democrats. So that is the first. And when I say we have to join as Democrats, that leads me to the second point. We don't. Look at the Conservatives. Look at the Liberals. They do not stay firmly in the camp of the democratic parties, not in the member states and not in the European Parliament. You do not work together with autocrats and dictators. You just don't. But look at Sweden, look at Finland, look at Italy. And also in the Netherlands, the Liberals would have gone with Geert Wilders if the others would have. So the really big danger for democracy is the Conservatives and the Liberals giving up the democratic consensus not to work with them. And the third, and then we have a lot more, but the third danger is, of course, the very different media landscape that we are working in. We do not talk about the same facts anymore. And the autocrats, the autocratic parties, they have a very efficient strategy. They don't care about facts. They go fully towards the emotional side. They try to trigger anxieties, envy, very important, unfortunately. Negative sides that we all have and that are easy to tackle. So when we do politics, and this is my plea, first of all, don't forget social media. Go on TikTok. It's not nice all the time, but do it. We have to go there. Young people are there. And the second one is try to make politics emotional. Try to make it something you love and show that you love the people, that you do it for them. I think it was in a PES meeting where, maybe our last dinner, where someone said, and excuse me, I don't recall who it was, a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, which said, "People don't care what you know, but people want to know that you care." And that is the message we have to get across, and that is how we can win elections.
Thank you, Katharina. Thank you very much. And indeed, fighting for democracy is closely linked to emotions, is closely linked to courage, and we need this. But fighting for democracy is also closely linked to social justice, to fighting inequalities, to work for a fair economy. And that brings me to our next speaker, Maria Joao Rodrigues. We're faced with more and more inequalities. So how could a fair economic model look like that can secure social cohesion and by doing so also secure our democracy in the end? Maybe give us our thoughts on that.
Well, Thomas, many thanks for this question, because this goes to the heart of our concern, of our action, and of our achievements. But this also at the heart of our citizens. Other citizens, the youngest ones. We have clear objectives to make sure that our economy delivers on social concerns. First of all, it's about jobs. And we need to adapt to the challenge ahead of us. Now this is about green transition, so we need to have active industrial policy to create new jobs, jobs of the future. The same with the digital revolution. But in the past, when we were dealing with the financial crisis, we wanted to support jobs by making people purchase their possibilities as consumers. And we turned the page of austerity. Then our second concern is about wages. And that's why we support so strongly collective bargaining, and we are so proud that we introduced this European law on minimum wage. And then this is about working conditions, because we have been fighting against precarious jobs. Now we are concerned with the platform work, because we see that the working conditions are changing dramatically in platform work. And again, we came with a new European law on platform work. And then our final concern is about public services, in health, in education, in social services, in social housing, and with a large universal access. But now here we have the problem, because we need to ask, where are the means to pay all this? And first of all, I would say they start with fair taxation. We need to make sure that our taxation is really fair and tackling where is the wealth to be tackled. Then we need to make sure that our national budgets, they have this possibility. We just reformed the Stability and Growth Pact to create some more room of maneuver to invest in people. But I can tell you from our experience, I believe that there is a lesson we can learn from the pandemics. We need really to stick together as Europeans to bring forward much stronger financial means to tackle the challenges ahead of us. So I'm so proud that our family was able to invent the European Pillar of Social Rights. Stefan Levin, you were the President of the European Council. I was the rapporteur in the European Parliament. Then our Spitzenkandidat and as Commissioner turned this into a strong action plan. Strong support, Irache, coming from S&D Group, so big achievement over the last mandate. And now our family as a whole is implementing this European Social Action Plan. Let me tell you, this is our best argument to have higher outcomes in the European elections. So this is my wish.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for elaborating on many of the key elements, I would say, of the European economic and social model. You mentioned several which I think we all share and where we continue to work for. Let us now look a bit deeper into the issue and the field of European structural policy. And this brings me to you, Adrian. So here in Romania, also with your work, you have really increased the absorption of EU funds, and it was a great success in the last multi-annual financial framework. So what is your point of view? How can Europe improve on this field and improve the absorption of EU funds even further? Please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for your question. You know, we must learn from the past. The last 4 years for Europe was a big change. It was a transformation because of the crisis. It was a pandemic, it was the energy crisis, it is the war, with the effects of the war, also the disruption of the chain supply. So Europeans, all Europeans and also the Commission understand that must be flexible, must be wise and more adaptive. This is why all the countries were put in a situation not so good, looking for the absorption of European funds. When we look even today at the absorption, we saw Germany, Netherlands, Denmark with a low, let's say, level of absorption for 2014-2020. But what the Commission brings on the table, and this was by dialogue with the Parliament or the Council, was more flexible instruments. It was the SURE that helps from, let's say, recover from the pandemic. It was that instrument, it was RRF that helps all the countries to be more resilient. So the lesson that we learned from the past, we must apply in the future. Because the cohesion is not only about the money, it's about the real convergence from the regions and for the member states. So if you let you look only on the money and not look what you achieve with that money, the real convergence from between the states or between the regions, you didn't do nothing. You talked in the beginning that we have 100 million children that are at the risk of poverty. This is a question that we have to respond in the future with the financial instrument that European has in his map, let's say, to respond, to have better policies and better instrument to give a better Europe in 2028 at the end of this new period. So let's say, what I said, what I wish we don't need to try again in 2028. In 2020, Romania was only a half with absorption. So when the exercise, the financial framework took an end in 2020, and it's not only Romania, half of the countries were below 50%. So when we financed our economies, it was from 2020 till today. I will say that in the last 2 years, we bring to our economy 24 billion euros. But it's very important that European funds help our countries to develop. If I give an example, our economy grows 3 times since we enter in European Union. So our GDP grows 3 times, 300%. And 80% of that was because of the impact of the European funds, of the investment that we made with the European funds, not only on the infrastructure, but even on the social part. So I think in the future, the absorption must be very quick and very wise, because we have transition, green transition, we have the transition to digital, but this will bring new challenges on the table, the challenges of the labor force, because you have to adapt the new labor force to the new challenges that we will face when this transition will be done and the digital will be on the road. So what I hope for the next 4 years, it will be the dialogue, a good dialogue, and we have a point of speak, because our points, our words, the socialist words, were listening in that commission and also in the parliament and also on the public policies that Europe bring to the member states, because there is no economy without people, and the socialists are for the people and with the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. And you also mentioned that EU policies have to really reach the regions, have to really reach the cities in order to be effective. And that brings me to the next speaker. Dear Katalin, you're campaigning to become mayor of Bucharest. And of course, Bucharest is a European city. But what do you think, how can Bucharest even become more European under your leadership?
Thank you, Tomas. I think it's a very good question. And first of all, I want to say that Bucharest is an amazing city. But first of all, it's an ill city now. And I will be likely emotional, political for Bucharest because I care citizens. I care people. I'm a doctor. And I want to make everything good for Bucharest because I think it's time to treat the city. But Bucharest is an European city. It's one of the largest cities in Europe. And I think to be a European city is necessary to have three directions. First of all, I think it's really important to be an open city to another European towns, to another European capitals. And if I think of Chancellor Olaf Scholz, it was mayor 2 times in a very beautiful city in Hamburg. And I think it's really, really a good example how can you make to have a good city, a beautiful city. I think that an European city, an European Bucharest, may be a city where the mayor is able to have a dialogue with all the mayors, because it's necessary to transfer the know-how, the technologies, to have a smart city, to have a green city, to have a city without problems like traffic, pollution, because this is problems from all the city. But if I look at the Bucharest today, I see a really different time, because in Bucharest we speak about primary necessities, and we don't speak about advanced technologies. I think now is the time to speak about that. And this is the first point, by dialogue with other cities, because there'll be interconnected cities in Europe. The second line is that one. Is the time to speak now about primary necessities of the people? Yes, in Bucharest is. But I think that I like to discuss today about innovative techniques, about innovative programs. I want to discuss today about advanced solution for a town, for a town which is a capital. But we are in this point now, and my improvement is that it's really shock, but this is the truth. Now, in Bucharest, the people are rich, but the level of life is not like the level of the money that the people take, especially in the north of the city. It's time to equalize the city between north and south. And if I make a comparison, Bucharest now is like a huge building, but with the worst fundamental structure possible. If you added flats every time, it's not a solution. It's necessary to cure the base, to cure the fundamental structure of the city. And I think the town is necessary to be functional for all the people, for all the citizens, despite the categories, despite orientations. And I think that is the truth. The people are really different in a city. You can speak with everyone. We can discuss with everyone. We can have solutions from everyone. And I think Bucharest is only a unique project. We have here six towns, but there are no 6 different towns. It's like in one. And I think this is the reflecting experience from other cities. The third direction, I think that is the time to stop now the extravagant attitudes. I want to say that, it's electoral campaign, but it's the time to stop it, to have an ending line, because after that it's necessary to work, and it's necessary to have a good vision for the people. Here in Bucharest, I represent the 2 biggest parties in Romania, Social Democrat and Liberals, and it's like in Germany, where we have an alliance between CDU and CPD, it's like the same situation. But I think I have the management to have a good team, a new one, together with the 2 parties. I think that in the future I will tell to the citizens that our alliance is the strongest solution for have a stability and development in Bucharest. And after this electoral campaign, I want to say that the doctor treats the ill city of Bucharest. Thank you.
Thank you, Katalin, and of course I think we all of here will support you, wish you all the best, and hopefully with you as new mayor, Bucharest will become even more European. So thanks to all of the speakers for enriching our discussion.
Thank you.
And now let's move on in the program. We heard already 2 Prime Minister leader of our family on stage, and now I would like to give the floor to a real parliamentarian leader of our family, to a strong woman, to a strong fighter for social justice and democracy in Europe, to the leader of the Social Democratic Group in the European Parliament, Irache Garcia. The floor is yours.
Dear colleagues, thank you for joining us in Bucharest. And a special thanks to you personally, dear Marcel, for hosting in this amazing city. Congratulations to your government and to the Romanian people for joining Schengen. Because your entry in Schengen, we worked a lot together, really, with our Romanian colleagues. Because your entry into Schengen was a matter of justice. That is why we will not stop working until controls of land borders are lifted and Romania becomes a full member. Dear Marcel, your leadership at the head of the Romanian government shows that social democratic ideas can build more just, prosperous, and sustainable societies. And today is an important day because today we are joined by colleagues who defend the interest of the many and the common goods on the basis of our shared social democratic convictions. Colleagues who always carry out their work with commitment, with hard work, with leadership and courage. And leadership and courage are needed more than ever to stop the reactionary wave that is shaping the world, including here in Europe. All the progress that we have achieved is at stake. Workers' rights, equality between men and women, international openness, tolerance, public service, the freedom and respect of human rights, and the transition to a fair and more sustainable economy. The soul of Europe is at stake, and once again, it is up to social democrats to defeat that threat and ensure that history continue to advance in the right direction. Dear friends, we can be very proud of our brave, historic, and united response to the pandemic and Putin's war against Ukraine, protecting the working and middle classes. When the pandemic hit, we responded with a strong defense of our public service and by adopting Next Generation EU Recovery Plan. We saved millions of jobs through the SURE mechanism with your decisive contribution as a minister, dear Olaf, was really incredible and important. In the middle of the existential threat that climate change poses, we made sure the von der Leyen Commission accepted the Green Deal as an essential tool for making the ecological transition a reality. We transformed it entire industries and increased the production of clean energy thanks to our determination. When the future of our children and young people and the working and middle classes was at risk, we reformed the electricity market and built the social pillar. Dear Nicholas, you are not only the candidate for the European Socialist, you are the candidate of those citizens who benefit from the Minimum Wages Directive and the Minimum Income and Care Initiative, of those who are now better off because the Child and Youth Guarantee were approved. When the rights of women and minorities have been under threat, we have been responsive with more equality and redouble our efforts to end gender-based violence. Dear friends, we can be proud, we can be very proud, but we didn't came to Bucharest to feel nostalgia about our achievements. We have to speak about the future. We have to speak about what we want to do for the next generations. And really, we have a lot of things to do together. Today, we are in Bucharest because we want a union that serves as an example of quality public service, the protection of the working and middle classes, and the fight against inequalities. A union that makes progress toward the construction of the social pillar, a social pillar that guarantees access to housing as a fundamental right. And I know that some of our colleagues were yesterday in Portugal speaking with our local authorities about these important questions, the housing as a fundamental right. Today, we join our voices in Bucharest because we want a union of equality, because the 21st century is the century of women. It's the century there is still a long way to go and many battles to win in order to achieve full equality between men and women. And this is in our hands, and we have to do it, dear friends. Today, we in Bucharest, we reaffirm our commitment to a union that leads the way in defending individual rights and civil liberties. A union that includes people of different races, religions, and origins. A union that treats migrants and their traumatic circumstances with respect, with a new migration pact. And really, it's important to speak about this question as an opportunity. Today, we listen to the voices of the young people in Bucharest because we want a union that leads the fight against climate change. Because progress, if it's not sustainable, cannot be called progress. We know that the human hand is behind the damage caused to the environment. There is no alternative to fighting climate change. What is in our hands is to guarantee a just transition. Today, we join our forces because we want a more autonomous union, a union that is able to defend itself, a union that wants to reduce its vulnerabilities, but without isolating itself, a union that drives a more human digital transformation. And today, we also defend our values in Bucharest because we want our union to be an exporter of peace. Because our union was born out of hope for peace on a continent reduced to ashes by 1,000 years of war. And for this, we know that the world should never again decide our present or our future. That is why we want a union that is not indifferent to people suffering. In the face of the atrocities of Putin's war against Ukraine, we responded with unity and strength, with solidarity and economic and military support. Dear friends, courage has always been one of the driving forces of social democracy. In the 19th century, we had the courage to put an end to the unbearable injustice that millions of men, women, and children suffered in the Europe of the Industrial Revolution. In the 20th century, we had the courage to build the greatest peace project and the strongest welfare state in Europe history. Now, in the 21st century, let us also have the courage to respond to the greatest challenges facing humanity: social justice, gender equality, and sustainable. There is always time for a dream. 70 years ago, the founding fathers of the European Union were dreaming of a better future, and they made it a reality. Thanks to their efforts and their sacrifice, today we have the best we could hope for: the dream of a better Europe, prosperous without no walls. In 1989, the dream came to the countries of Eastern Europe. Today, in Bucharest, we are living this dream. Let's continue making a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irace. Indeed, it's important to speak about equality, it's important to speak about a fair Europe, and thank you for the work that you have done in the European Parliament. Thank you again. Let's applaud Irace and the entire political group in the European Parliament. Therefore, I also need to acknowledge some of our colleagues here, which are also running together for this campaign. So we have the head of our list, Mihai Tudose, with us. We have Gabriela Firea, you know, a very good mayor of Bucharest. We have Claudiu Manda, Dragoș Benea, two of our leaders. We have Maria Grapini, Dan Nica, Ștefan Mușoiu, Roxana Mânzatu, and many of our candidates are here. So a good team, and even me, I'm here. And this is good. But because we speak about Europe, we have to discuss about what Europe can do at global level, how we can act, and what is the impact that we can have together. So I will be inviting together with me today here in the second panel and last panel today, 4 speakers. Andrei Seźna from Poland, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. Let's applaud him. I will invite Simona Bucura-Oprescu, Minister for Labor and Social Security. Owen Bonici from Malta, Minister for National Heritage, Arts and Local Government. And last but not least, Bogdan Bălănișcu, Secretary of State for Environment, Waters and Forest, and hopefully future Mayor of Iași. So thank you for being with us today. We'll be speaking English, and of course, some part will be also spoken in Romanian. And I will start with Minister Bonici. Minister, thank you for being here. So we are happy that, you see, also in Malta we have a social democratic government for many years already. When we speak about Europe, we also speak about values. And indeed, we social democrats promote a value-driven Europe. Also when it comes to the way we are acting at international level, when it comes to our foreign policy actions. So how could we promote better those values at global level?
Well, first of all, thank you for the organization. I'm really happy to be here with you. Values are what define us. When people ask who we are, we give an answer according to the values we have. According to the values we have, we promote our own ideas. But I want also to try and bring forward the argument that values are not only an identity, a name or a label, but values are a means to change things for the better. You have mentioned foreign policy. Foreign policy, in my view, must be value-driven. I'm going to give some examples to further clarify my thoughts. First of all, economically, as socialists, as social democrats, we believe that we must have a fair Europe. So even in the economical sphere, we have to have a value-driven foreign policy. In terms of the environment, there is a whole argument how much we need to be socially oriented to make sure that people, even those with lesser means, are able to get a shot to enjoy the best environment as much as everyone. In terms of technology and technological advancement, we must make sure that in the debate we have on a foreign policy level, the ideas and the innovations that are created in Europe and elsewhere are appertained and go down and trickle down to everyone, and so on and so forth. So I believe that foreign policy must be value-driven. If you had to ask me what is the most important value, in my view, and as someone who comes from Malta, with all its history, with all the history and the experiences we have, the most important value is to actively pursue peace. And I would like to join the condemnation which all the speakers have made against the Russian aggression on Ukraine, and we stand fast with our Ukrainian friends, and we will be there for as long as it needs be to keep being there shoulder to shoulder with our Ukrainian friends. But we also need to mention what's going on in Gaza. We cannot not mention what is going on in that part of the world, in the Middle East, and we must work to find a solution which would see a two-state solution with Israel and Palestine someday in our lifetime, working together hand in hand in peace. That is an ideal which, as a value-driven Europe, we should push forward. And finally, if you had to ask me, what is the Europe you wish for? Why are you working, why are you dedicating your life, as my colleagues are doing, in this political field? Because we want to make sure that every single European has a shot at making a success out of his or her life, like everyone else in the whole European continent. This is what Europe should be about. This is what politics should be about. Social mobility. That is the highest value, and that is why I agree with you that our politics should be value-driven, and values are not only those which define us, but also are an instrument to change Europe and make it a much better place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Owen. Indeed, values are important for the entire Europe and also in our region. I also have to underline that we have here colleagues from the political parties, social democratic political parties in the region, from Republic of Moldova, from Albania, from Serbia, from Hungary, from Montenegro, from all the countries in the region, and we are happy that Romania is today hosting you all. And of course, we have our friend here, Vice President of the PS, Mr. Steżna from Poland, and of course you fought for values, and you won. And this is important. Let's applaud them, because they just won the elections, and this is good. It was an important fight for freedom and democracy. But in the same time, we are fighting for a Europe that needs to become more strategic and in the same time, let's say, capable of acting as a geopolitical actor. How do you see that, starting from, let's say, the position that you are holding right now in the Polish government?
Yes, first of all, I would like to tell you that it's, for us, I mean, in Poland, a great challenge, not only to support and create a new foreign policy and support Ukraine, but it was a challenge to stop the populism in Poland and show how it could be possible in Europe, because the most dangerous for the foreign policy, for the reasonable foreign policy, for the coherent foreign policy, are the nationalists and populists in Europe. And that's why I think that in the new European Parliament, there will be no more populism. And the majority, it will be the socialist group. And I wish it, Irache, I wish it Stefan and Olaf and Mr. Prime Minister. Second, of course, Nils. Second thing, of course, we are now living in the new era of the foreign policy, because the 22nd of February, it has become a test for us, a very important test. And at the beginning, this test was, we haven't been prepared for that, talking about the values and geopolitical challenges. But step by step, we recognized not only challenges, but the instruments. First of all, we have to be autonomous. I mean about the European Union. We have to remember that we, of course, we have to be a pillar of the NATO. We have to be in a very close alliance with the United States, but we have to build our own defense possibilities, our own defense protection. I want to tell you that, of course, it's not only Ukraine crisis, but this is Gaza, this is Sudan, crisis. This is, of course, Rwanda, China, etc. But these demands, these challenges, they demand from us a new approach. So I think that we have to create a new coordination policy and new decision-making procedure, because this new decision-making procedure should help us to come to the decision without looking for agreement of one, for example, country like Hungary, who wants to stop the support for Ukraine. So it is for me, as a Polish Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, unacceptable, because it's striking our common security system. And I would like also to tell you that we have to talk about the economy, because foreign policy is also economy. So it's defense, it's energy security and technology. And what is last but not least, we need determination to combine a smart enlargement policy with institutional reforms. We do not avoid it. And we have cooperated with the multilateral organization and strengthened our bilateral partnership. So, just deeply from my heart, what I want to tell you, the foreign policy is starting to be, and is now, not only foreign policy, it's defense policy, economic policy, energy security. So I don't want to use the words of one of the politicians who I do not accept, but I will do that just for fun. Let's make Europe strong again.
Indeed, let's make Europe strong, make it social, make it democratic, and make it sustainable, and all of those elements are connected. We spoke about foreign policy, but of course, everything that means foreign action implies also paying attention to what people expect from us. And the next speaker comes from Iași, which is in the northeast part of Romania. So when we speak about Ukraine, they know it even better than all of us, even here from Bucharest. But in the same time, again, people's needs are there and expectations are there. And when it comes to environmental issues, there are many expectations. And you know, for instance, Mr. Rouillon, who's the leader of our Social Democratic group in the Committee of the Region, he often speaks about that, and I'm happy that he's here with us. You also do that, Bogdan. So Bogdan, he's running for the Iași City Hall. I'm certain he will be the next mayor. But you speak a lot about environment. Tell us a little bit what kind of Europe you want for Iași, for Romania, and also when it comes to just transition.
Thank you, Victor. And first of all, I think I will speak from the point of view of a father, because I have a little girl. She has 8 years. And first of all, thank you. First of all, I want to see an Europe in which my little girl, at the time that she will have 40 years old, she will be able to enjoy the same environment or a better environment than the one that we are having today. And I speak this, and with your permission, I will speak also in Romania. Și spun aceste chestiuni pentru că, uitați că astăzi, apropo de ce spunea Victor, vin din orașul Iași, ne batem cu Clujul, care oraș este mai mare după București, și din păcate, un raport al Agenției Europene pentru Mediu, anul trecut, a arătat că Iașul este printre cele mai poluate orașe din România. Asta în condițiile în care Iașul este un oraș care întinerește și își menține o medie a vârstei destul de bună din acest punct de vedere, pentru că este un oraș universitar. Și atunci, dacă ne întrebăm ce Europă dorim să avem, îmi doresc să avem o Europă în care să respirăm un aer curat. O Europă în care să nu pățim cum pățesc astăzi 28.000 de români anual mor din cauza bolilor asociate cu poluarea aerului. Și atunci, dacă e o chestiune pe care mi-o doresc, este aceasta, să avem o Europă în care să respirăm un aer curat. Să avem o Europă capabilă să-și protejeze biodiversitatea. Să avem o Europă capabilă să se dezvolte din punct de vedere economic, în așa fel încât mediul să fie și el la rândul lui protejat. Îmi doresc să avem o Europă în care fiecare țară să fie tratată echitabil. Și atunci când luăm decizii la nivel european, să luăm aceste decizii în funcție de specificul fiecărei țări. Să nu le luăm doar din pix, trăgând un procent pentru fiecare dintre țările noastre. Îmi doresc să avem o Europă în care pădurile să-și îndeplinească rolul lor social și am avut anul trecut în Parlamentul României o inițiativă de la Partidul extremist din România, care pentru că dă bine în fața electoratului, a venit și a spus: în România se fură lemn. Propunem să oprim, să interzicem tăierea materialului lemnos timp de 10 ani. Și întrebarea mea în comisie a fost aceea prin care am zis în felul următor: cum își vor încălzi casele cele 1,7 milioane de români și cum își vor pregăti hrana? Măsurile trebuie să fie luate în concordanță cu nevoile actuale, ținând cont de unde vrem să ajungem, ținând cont de ce tip de Europă verde vrem să avem pentru noi atunci când vom ajunge la vârsta pensionării, dar și pentru copiii noștri. Cred că aici, în echilibru dintre aceste măsuri, stă decizia corectă și soluția corectă.
Thank you, Bogdan.
Mulțumesc.
And indeed, just to also make some jokes at the end, we also want a Europe where people will learn Romanian maybe in the future, so it will make our debates easier. So hopefully, you know, we also need to use Romanian today, and I hope our foreign guests will accept that. And I think it's good for the diversity of Europe, learning different languages and respecting the diversity that Europe has. And this is indeed important. You mentioned, of course, the environment. The environment is indeed important, but also the social side is crucial. Today, Commissioner Nicola Schmid, he spent the entire day with our Minister for Labour. They went together near Bucharest. They spoke with people who were working today, speaking about their projects, many young people, and we do a lot when it comes to young people, and not only. But there is an issue which is important for us, is to create jobs, but to create quality jobs, well-paid jobs. This is important. So Simona is our Minister for Labour, you all know. What kind of Europe would you like us to build in order to enable countries to create better jobs for everyone? Simona, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Victor, and thank you to all of you, because this time you've chose Bucharest to stand together for our Europe. Our Europe has to be social, democratic, and sustainable. The future of Europe has to be with respect for people. It is time for action to bring well-being and greater fairness. We need to be prepared for the jobs of the future, for the green transition and digital transition. We need to enhance the level of knowledge for foreign languages, and we have to do something extremely important. We have to vote for that people which dedicate all their life for the other people, such as our Commissioner Nicola Schmid. Because all the fight of Nicola Schmid, all day life, all his life was for people. As a Minister of Labour, as a Commissioner for Labour, he is the person which fight for the integration of young people, the inclusion of the persons with disabilities, also to have more social equity and to have also tools as social economy in each of our country. That's why we have also to be ready to win, and for this it's time to action. we have to build a better labor market based on employment policies to be able to pay good salaries and decent pensions. We have to lead Europe through the social change. That's the goal, the social change. We have to make all this together for the people. I trust in each of us. I trust in social democratic Europe. I trust in social Europe and in Nicola Schmidt, and I'm quite sure that together we will stand for our Europe. Let's win.
Thank you so much. Indeed, we have to stand together for our Europe. I want to thank our panelists. Let's applaud them again. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your wonderful interventions. Please. And of course, now that we had the second panel, a very interesting panel with our guest, I want to thank them once more for being with us today. And again, thank you all of you for joining today's meeting. More than 1,000 people join our event. You see many young faces, but not only young people, coming from all over the country. We limited the numbers, by the way, because we had many registrations beyond that number, but we wanted, of course, to respect everyone and make sure everyone had a place here in this wonderful room and this wonderful palace. Indeed, of course, we had very interesting speeches, interventions, speaking about what we can do together, but also what we did, because we did a lot for Europe. We did a lot for people in our different countries, but also at European level. We have to be proud of ourselves, proud of what we did, proud of our achievements, and we have to learn to speak more about them, because we do not do it enough. Sometimes, we all know, people take for granted what we managed to do, but in reality, what we achieved was not easy. It was not easy to introduce a regulation on the European minimum wage. It was not easy to develop the SURE program that allowed you and the citizens that are looking at us today to keep their jobs during the pandemic. It was not easy to build the child guarantee. It was not easy to convince the right wing at European level to accept our social policies and the proposals that the PS promoted actively in the last 5 years. And in order to do that, we had to fight. Fight every day. Fight in the European Parliament together with Irace, with Katarina. Fight in the Committee of the Region with our local elected officials and Mr. Rion. Fight in the Council, where they are never fighting, but they are still sometimes expressing very toughly their positions together with people like the Chancellor Olaf Scholz, but also fight in the Commission. And one of the persons that has fought a lot and that has achieved a lot for social democracy, for our political family, to build this social, democratic, and sustainable Europe. We talked about him today. We didn't praise him for nothing. It's a fact. It's a reality. We need people that fight. That person that I will invite today to have the closing speech is our common candidate, Commissioner Nicola Schmidt.
Dear Marcel, more or less, dear Stefan, dear Olaf, dear Irace, dear Katerina, dear friends. Well, we have spoken a lot about fight, about winning. When I look to this room after Rome, I have the impression that indeed we are ready to fight and we are ready to win. And dear friends from Romania, this election will also be won here in Romania, because this country has a deep and strong social democratic party. And this party has brought change into this country for the better, for more social justice, for a stronger economy, for all kinds of people, the young, but also the older, and you have mentioned the fight we had together on pensions. Because this is, to take a word Olaf likes very much, this is a word of respect. Respecting also those who have a long and sometimes very difficult working life behind them. So thank you for what you have done in this country. And dear friends, it's not just like that this place was chosen. Because I believe really that Romania is a key country now in the European Union. A key country also because geopolitics have changed and have put Romania into this special role of being a guarantee also of our European security. So we rely a lot on a strong democratic Romania. I will not repeat what has been already said about Schengen. It is some kind of a scandal that you have been in the waiting room for so long. You know, Schengen is a place I know very well. It's a small village in Luxembourg. But it's a symbol. It's a symbol of free Europe, of a Europe where people can move freely, a Europe without borders. And indeed, it's the conservatives in Austria and in some other places who have opposed and still oppose the full implementation of the Schengen Agreement, as Stefan has already mentioned. And we have now to guarantee, and I will tell you that together with my colleague Ylva Johansson in the Commission, we will fight that the whole agreement of Schengen will apply to Romania. There is no reason to exclude Romania from the free movement also on land. Now, dear friends, we are, as Stefan has said, in challenging times. And many people, millions of people, millions of workers, millions of small entrepreneurs, they have suffered a lot from COVID, they have suffered a lot from the hiking of energy prices, and that's the crisis of cost of living. And when we ask people around Europe, what is your major concern, finally? They will not answer, it's about all these migrants. No, they will tell you first, it's the cost of living. It's our difficulty how to make ends meet every month, every day. And here, obviously, we have to give answers to bring inflation down, to make sure that, indeed, there will be no energy poverty around in Europe. But there should be no greed inflation, because we all know that inflation is partly due to the crisis, to the energy crisis, but it's also due to some people who just took the opportunity to increase their prices. This is the greed, and that's what we have to fight to bring inflation down and to guarantee stability of prices and to bring down the cost of living so many Europeans are suffering from. And you, it has been already mentioned, Marcel, you have taken a lot of good measures to make sure that people can have a decent life in these difficult times. You have increased child benefits, you have increased pensions, you have organized financial support for vulnerable people, and you have capped electricity and gas prices for households and companies and stabilized the Romanian economy. Because families and also enterprises, and mainly small and medium-sized enterprise, cannot bear the cost of geopolitical turmoil. And you have, in a way, anticipated the directive on minimum wages, because you have increased minimum wages and put Romanian real wages back on track for sustained growth. Now, dear friends, I will not come back to what has been achieved. We have to think now ahead. we have to think, what should we do for the next 5 years? What should we do to strengthen Europe, to strengthen our social fabric, to strengthen our social dimension, but also our economic dimension in this Europe of the coming years? That's the role we have to play, but that's also the message we have to convey to our fellow citizens. And this is obviously to make clear that Europe does not need a social pause. We do not need a climate pause, as some ask for, because you cannot negotiate pauses with climate, as we have already said. You cannot tell the forest fires, well, we are now in a pause. This is not possible. This is not reasonable to propose such a thing. But we cannot tell people who are, and it has been said about poverty, about child poverty, about families who are not making ends meet, we cannot make them wait longer. So we have to go on building this social Europe. And we have shown that this is not an illusion. And for us social democrats, there is no opposition between the economic side and the social side. They are the two sides of the same coin. And I am very much in line with the great president of the Commission, Jacques Delors, who has already been quoted by Olaf, who always has said, competitiveness without solidarity doesn't work. So we have to build competitiveness in our economies. We have to reach a stronger European economy and not miss the opportunities, especially also the opportunities of technologies. But at the same time, we have to make sure that our Europe remains or even strengthens its internal security. Internal security, which means first a solidarity between member states. That's the nature, that's the DNA of Europe, to be in solidarity. That's, by the way, the only way how we can also guarantee our security. But it's also solidarity between regions. And we have discussed with our friends from the Committee of Regions on the importance of regions, the dialogue between regions, the cooperation between regions. We had a very interesting meeting in Portugal, in Portimao, on housing, because housing has become in many places in Europe now a big issue, which creates poverty among many, many people, mainly also young people. We have to make sure that equality between people, equality in our societies has to be strengthened. We have gone through a period, the neoliberal period, where finally we have totally neglected, or those forces who believed in this neoliberal dogma have neglected that, in the contrary to what Thatcher always said, there is nothing such as society. There is a society, and we have to keep our societies together, which means we have to combat poverty, we have to combat exclusion. But talking about equality, we have, and this is something I take very, very serious, it's the equality between all citizens, between first women and men. Women and men, this is fundamental. There can be no just society without gender equality. And this fight we have fought under this commission with, by the way, a proposal my colleague Dalli has made on wage transparency, because we are still in a situation in Europe where wage differences are above 10%, sometimes around 20% for the same job between women and men. This cannot be accepted anymore. So the fight for gender equality at work and in societies, the rights of women have to be defended. Now, a word on the just transition. Yes, I always hear that now the just transition, the transformation of our economy in a decarbonized way are a threat for our economy. This is wrong. I would say if we are not going the way of just transition, that is a real threat for the European economy. That will make Europe weaker. That will make Europe the loser in the geo-economic competition. So we have now to invest massively, massively into new quality jobs, in the new technologies, in the transformation of our industry. Our industrial base has to be enlarged and strengthened at the same time as it will be decarbonized. And I have said, I feel myself, as our party, the tradition of our party, the party of the workers, in the largest possible sense. The nurses as well as the engineers, the workers in the steel industry, in the automotive industry, the people working in services, all these are workers. And all these have to get the feeling that we are defending their interests. We are defending their security. We are helping them to navigate the changes which are unavoidable. Because if we try to avoid the changes, at the end, it will be a loss for all of us. And that's what is at stake in this election. To give people hope, but at the same time, to give them the solutions, the concrete solutions to make sure that they get the feeling that at the end, Europe will be stronger, but also their life, and the life of their children will be better. And this is also about cohesion policy. I know that cohesion policy sometimes is debated, but look around when you go through Europe. I was now in Spain, I was in Portugal, I'm now here. And I see that Europe has changed. Europe has changed because of cohesion policy, because we have understood what makes everybody stronger. It makes Europe stronger. But not only those who have got the cohesion funds have become stronger, but also the richer parts in Europe have become stronger. And that's why, together with my colleagues also in the Commission, and especially Elisa Ferreira, we are really pleading for a strong European cohesion policy which binds and creates the links between the regions in Europe and helps us precisely in a totally different geopolitical context. And that makes also Europe more competitive. We cannot have some spots very competitive and some others just forgotten. This is not Europe. This is not the Europe we are dreaming of. And this is not a Europe of security. Because security, you know, this is not just about defense. It's also about defense. And I agree, without security, nothing is possible. We need security. But we need first to build our security internally. And to that kind of security, part of that security is also the security, the social security, the security of people to have a job, to find a new job if eventually they lose their job, the right to be retrained, to get long life learning. That will be one of our strong ideas, because after the year of skills, we have to continue the year of skills. We have to make clear, and this morning we had the discussion with the young people, and all they asked, well, how do you see the future of our labor market? I'm not a pessimist, and Social Democrats are never pessimists. Otherwise, they would not be Social Democrats. What we have to do is to give people the strength and the knowledge and the skills to adapt to the changes which are taking place. And I think that, especially somebody asked me about artificial intelligence. No, we are not going out and say we have to fear artificial intelligence. We have to fear the changes, the technological changes. No, we have to say we will shape the new technologies. That was always the role of social democracy. Changes, yes, but we shape it in a human way, in a humanistic way, in a social way. And that's also what we have to do now in the new economy, And we have proven it was a difficult thing to have this directive on platform adopted. And with this platform directive, we put the first stage, and the first stage was algorithmic management, machines governing people. Well, there should be limits how far machines can govern and manage people. And that's up to us, social democrats, to shape the world of work for tomorrow, to make it a human world of work and not a world of work dominated by machines. And this means we also have to invest in education, in health. So social investments, investments in people are part of our future, are part of our strength, are part also of our security. Our security, I think Olaf has said a lot about it. It should be a priority also for the next mandate, a very much high security, building an industry, obviously, a European defense industry. We should not be dependent on others when we have now to invest more in our security. By the way, it is part of a broader complex of industrial development. Here also defense industry can be an important contributor to make Europe industrially stronger. A last word, my friends, on the rule of law. Because democracy, there is no united Europe without a strong democracy. We are going now for an enormous moment, which is the European election, which doesn't exist in any place in this world. A transnational election of a transnational parliament. And we have to preserve these democratic values by all means. And therefore, I think we have to reinforce the conditionalities. We have to enforce that no country joining us, and I fully agree that enlargement is a must for this Europe, but at the same time, we have to make sure that those countries joining us, as Romania did years ago, consolidate their democratic system. There cannot be a free rider on democratic rights. This is not possible. And some try it, and they have to be shown that this is not an option. You cannot just forget about the rule of law and, for instance, take the money. This is not possible. And allow me just to say a word. In this country you know, which is a neighboring country of this one, not to mention it, Hungary, there is a good friend of us. There is a big fighter, a lady, who is fighting for democracy, but who is mainly fighting also for women's rights. She is now deprived from her parliamentarian immunity. She is accused because apparently she has injured a policeman. This is something we cannot tolerate. This is the beginning of the end of a democratic system. And we have to clearly express this and put the limits very clearly on such practices. So this is the Europe we want. We want it democratic, we want it social, and we want it sustainable. We want it strong in a world where we have to provide to all of us the right security resources, social security, but also the security to feel free. And we cannot tolerate that inside this Europe, the friends of Putin try to undermine these values. Thank you.
So, thank you Nicolas for this speech, and I think you can count on us that we're behind you, that we're next to you, that we're with you in the weeks and months to come for this European election campaign. I think this is sure. Before closing the conference, please allow me on behalf of the Party of European Socialists to once again extend a very warm thanks to our hosts here, to Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu, as well as to Victor Negrescu for initiating this conference and organizing it together with us. It was a real pleasure. And I think what we managed is to give a strong message that we have good ideas for the future of Europe, but also I think it's clear that we really want to win this European elections with you, Nicolas, on the European level, and with all of you here in Romania. I think that was a clear ambition formulated as well. So before really finishing, one last thing for us. This was a big milestone after our European Election Congress, but I dared to have a look into your calendar, Nico, and there I saw quite some more missions to come. So I looked it up just for the next days. It's Prague, it's Budapest, it's Florence, it's Berlin, it's Vienna, it's Strasbourg, it's Lisbon, it's Warsaw, etc., etc. So we have some work to do, but we're looking forward to it, and I think we share the aim of winning this election. So thank you all for coming, for joining us for this conference, and yeah, let's go out and win this election. Thank you.